The movie starts when Caroline, a single interior designer, moves into her dream apartment in the heart of San Francisco. Her life seems picture perfect, but it is immediately clear that she has a challenge, which is that for the past 6 months, following a nasty experience, she has lost her pleasure feeling. She calls this feeling, "Oh." The next morning, after she's moved in, her neighbor's passionate horizontal tango wakes her up from sleep. She is not pleased to be so rudely awoken. Soon her friends, Sophia and Mimi, show up with a housewarming present, which she cherishes. Mimi, who makes a living organizing people's homes, derives joy from helping Carol out with her home arrangements. The next night, the neighbor Simon wakes her up again with sounds from Pound Town. Carol does not get a very good night's sleep, and it is unclear if she is miffed or if she wants a piece of the action herself. She sees Simon say farewell to his lady love the next morning and gives herself a knowing smile. She commutes to work as per her schedule. She works at Jillian and Company Designs. It is Jillian who sublets Carol's new apartment to her. Jillian is her boss, and both women share a good relationship. Jillian invites Carol to her housewarming party the next weekend. She tells Carol to bring her friends along. Carol then uses the opportunity to ask Jillian about the neighbor, Simon. Turns out that Jillian is clueless about him, as he wasn't there when she lived in the apartment. The women give him the nickname Simon Wallbanger, because his first name is Simon and his banging goes through walls. Later that day, Carol helps the firm snag a new set of huge clients, the Nicholsons. She goes out to celebrate with Mimi and Sophia in the evening. As she's drunk, Mimi and Sophia take her back home and settle her in bed. They hear Simon Wallbanger at it again and are amused at the freakish sounds fueled by his actions. Carol is not amused as his actions deprive her of a good night's sleep. The following nights, Carol gets quality sleep time because Simon is out of town. But as soon as he is back, the nuisance continues. The scene shifts to Carol complaining to Mimi over the phone about issues from work. Mimi then tells her that she needs to do something to release the stress. This brings unwanted thoughts, and Carol immediately ends the call. That night, as she lies in bed, she generates fantasies as she touches herself. But her fantasies are abruptly interrupted by Simon Wallbanger's nuisance. Infuriated by this, she bangs on his door, prompting him to answer. As he comes out, they appear to check each other out. He is easy on the eyes, and Carol has already begun fantasizing about him. But their first meeting does not end well. They part without resolving their issues. The weekend for Jillian's housewarming party arrives, and Carol, Mimi, and Sophia attend in full glam. They spot Jillian's partner and go over to greet him. They meet him with his friends Neil and Ryan. Turns out that he is also friends with Simon. Relations between Carol and Simon are noticeably awkward. He calls her Pink Nighty Girl, and she calls him Wallbanger. In order to not ruin Jillian's night and to prevent further embarrassment for herself, Carol pulls Simon away from the rest. She pulls him away so they can have a private chat. They begin a heated argument, but it doesn't take long for the chemistry between them to heat up. They passionately kiss for a long, steamy moment. But Carol breaks it off and tells Simon to pretend like it never happened. As she leaves, she tells him to stop calling her Pink Nighty Girl, but he says he will only stop if he sees her other nighties. Smooth. Carol gets back to her friends, but she sees that they are having a good time with Ryan and Neil. It is unclear why she doesn't join them. But Simon chases after and catches up with her. Before he starts talking, she tells him she has no interest in being part of his harem. But he replies, saying that he only wants for them to have a truce since they are neighbors. Carol likes this. It is agreed that Simon can go to Pound Town however he likes, but at night he should keep the noise down to enable Carol to sleep. In turn, Carol agrees to stop judging Simon and his partners, as she knows next to nothing about them. Sometime later, Sophia, Mimi, Ryan, and Neil meet them, but leave the party in pairs. It appears Sophia has hit things off with Ryan. It also appears that Mimi and Neil have taken a liking to each other. Simon and Carol then agree to go home together, since they have a truce and their apartments are in close proximity. During the car ride, they talk about the seamless matches for both pairs of friends. The conversation is easy, and Carol sees Simon in a new light. It is further revealed that Jillian does in fact know Simon Wallbanger and has asked him to hang out with Carol in the past, as she thinks they will make a good pair. Before they say their goodnights, Simon makes reference to Carol's sweet dreams. This implies that he has heard Carol scream out his name during one of her fantasies. You know, thin walls and all. Carol and her best friends catch up the next day. It seems each girl likes the man she spent time with the previous night. At work, Carol confronts Jillian about trying to match her with a promiscuous man. But Jillian says that she knows certain things about Simon, like how he is a talented photographer, and how her partner Ben is like a big brother to him. Simon lost his parents to a car accident in high school, and it was Ben who looked out for him. Jillian swears that though Simon is close to her partner, she doesn't know everything about him. She also swears that if she had known he had a lot of girlfriends, she wouldn't have tried to get Simon to meet her. But she quickly tells Carol that Simon is a sweet guy, and they just might become good friends. One day, Carol and Simon meet in the hallway of their shared building. This time, they are on friendlier terms, and even flirt with each other. Carol informs Simon that their friends have been going on double dates. She tells him that they invited her for the next one, and she asks him to come, but he declines because he is to travel to Ireland the next day. Carol goes for the scheduled hangout. On her way back, she receives a message from an unknown number, who turns out to be Simon. When she asks, he refuses to tell her how he got her details, but she doesn't mind. They flirt and ask about each other's day and well-being. Their conversations are filled with thirst and innuendos. Both parties express their enjoyment of their truce. The group of friends, after a lot of back and forth, agree to go to Sophia's grandparents' house in Tahoe, which will be free for the next weekend. In their dialogues, it is suggested that though Sophia is dating Ryan and Mimi is dating Neil, Sophia and Neil have a thing for each other. One morning, while Carol is preparing for work, her faucets cause a mess and she screams in alarm. Simon comes to her aid. He gets a wrench and screws the necessary things in while Carol envisions screwing him. He solves the problem and Carol is pleased. There seems to be romantic tension, but none makes a move. Later that day, Carol gives Simon a zucchini bread as an appreciation gift, and he invites her to his place. The duo get to know each other more. They get to know more about each other's likes and dislikes. Simon tells Carol about his Pound Town partners. He also tells her that his arrangement with them is out of convenience, and every single one of them is happy. It seems both Carol and Simon had been in love at some points in their lives, but their respective relationships never did work out. Later that night, Carol has another fantasy-filled dream where she dreams of Simon and calls out his name. He hears this from his room and laughs out loud. Carol is frustrated at this, but it doesn't sour their truce. The two of them remain friendly with each other and flirt like heck. They even make hangout plans involving watching a horror movie and snacks. In furtherance of their hangout plans, the two decide to make an apple pie together. During this process, they are flirting to the point of no return and are enjoying every minute of it. They get handsy at every point to see who will fall first. Eventually, Simon almost gives in, but they are interrupted by a call from Mimi. The two decide to watch The Exorcist. This gives Carol nightmares and she calls Simon to come over and keep her company. He gladly does this, and they sleep in each other's arms. While Simon is asleep, Carol hears him calling out her name, suggesting that he too has fantasies about being together. In the morning, as they wake, they make plans on traveling together to Tahoe. On the D-Day, the pair travel as planned, and they meet the rest of their friends. Noticeably, Sophia and Neil are hanging out. At the same time, Ryan and Mimi are playing in the pool. Carol and Simon use this opportunity to bring each of these pairs closer. They tell Ryan that Mimi supports his charity for underprivileged kids. Ryan is ecstatic about this. They tell Sophia that Neil got several seats for a symphony. Sophia is a concert cellist, and she is pleased. Despite Carol and Simon's efforts, Sophia and Mimi don't make their move on Neil and Ryan respectively. Carol, not one to back down, seizes another opportunity to rematch the couples. She doesn't pull any punches this time, and finally, Neil gets together with Sophia, and Mimi gets together with Ryan. The pairs go to their respective rooms to have some fun. Carol is left with Simon at the hot tub. Things get heated and intimate, but Simon stops them halfway. Carol is hurt by this and goes to her room crying. The next day, Simon apologizes to her for the previous night's debacle. He then gifts her with an expensive sweater like she had always wanted. Before they leave Tahoe, they reaffirm that they are still friends, but it seems they both want to be more. A few days later, Carol tells Jillian about these issues. Jillian advises her to talk things through with Simon. Carol sees sense in this. As Carol reaches Simon's door and is about to knock, she hears Simon making plans with one of his Pound Town partners. She leaves heartbroken and decides to take back her ex-boyfriend, James. She doesn't like James, but she forces herself to be with him in a bid to forget Simon. One night, James upsets her, and she pushes him out of her home. Simon hears the chaos and comes in to check on her. It is here that she bawls her eyes out and he comforts her. They both bare their souls. From Carol's sobbing monologue, it is clear that she cares for only Simon. Simon reveals that he feels the same way about her. He tells her that he has ended things with the other women because he cannot stop thinking of her. He confesses that he has been thinking of her from the first day she banged on his door to complain. Then he invites her to come with him to Spain as he goes for a photo shoot. She is the only woman who he has invited to go with him on such a trip. Several montages show their gentle, passion-filled romance. Simon states that he never wants to mess things up with Carol. Clearly swooning, Carol commends him for putting up a good woo. It is implied that they are traveling slowly to Pound Town. On the night they finally reach Pound Town, Carol is disappointed that she doesn't feel her O. She becomes awkward with Simon and leaves almost immediately. She leaves Spain without Simon, but they agree that he will meet her in San Francisco the next day. When Simon finally arrives, he asks her why she faked an O. She tries to deny it, but he reminds her that if they are all in, then they have to be honest with each other. She asks him how he knew, and he implies that he pays attention to her. They talk things through and ultimately confess their love for each other. They try the horizontal tango again and entwine their souls. This time Carol experiences the rush of heaven. She finally gets her happy ending.